Welcome back to PTB, my loyal listeners. This is a story that hasn't reached a lot of headlines lately. However, I believe it highlights Israel's resistance to peace in the Arab-Israeli conflict of the past 70 years, which is contrary to what the media might tell you, which is that the Palestinians are the block in the road to peace. Well, the Palestinians just submitted a peace resolution through neighboring country Jordan to the United Nations. Now, it was a perfectly fine peace resolution, and for some reason, Israel is blatantly turning it down. Now, I'll enter the particulars of this peace resolution later. However, I wanted to skim over this conflict as a whole before I get started on that, so you all can have a better grasp of the real details of this conflict. So, the Jews lived on that land for 2,000 years, until about 60 AD, 2,000 years ago, when the Romans kicked them off the land. The Muslim Arabs took over the land about 1,400 years ago and established their own civilization. Now fast forward to 1940, and Jews are a third of the population inside Palestine. And by the end of World War II, and obviously accompanied that with the Holocaust, in which 6 million Jews were slaughtered, the Jews wanted their own territory, and in particular, the Palestinian land. The UN resolved the problem by splitting the land in half, some for Israel and some for Palestine. The Arabs got pissed and they invaded Israel. Israel won the war, and essentially from 1948 and onward, it has been Israel oppressing and brutalizing and taking the land of the Palestinians. They immediately began to take the Arab land and kick them off their territory, leaving them nowhere to go except be homeless and live in poverty. In 1967, after another Arab offensive and Arab loss, Israel began to occupy Palestine and brutalize the Arabs living there. They also put in policies that absolutely degraded the Palestinian economy. Now also realize every 5 or 10 years or so, Israel would randomly invade Palestine and kill about 1,000 to 2,000 people, mostly civilians, for no rhyme or reason, just because they hate Palestinians. Now by 2006, after yet another Palestinian slaughter, a peace deal was worked where Israel no longer occupied Palestine with its military. However, that began a horrific blockade of all exports and imports going in and out of Palestine. And for those who has no idea what that does to an economy, that's essentially murdering that economy. And imagine the effect on an already crap economy like in Palestine. They also in recent years have closed off the borders of these territories, so they're essentially locked into this hellhole that has a time bomb and when its foundations will absolutely collapse. Now also keep in mind, every two years or so, Israel decides to slaughter 1,000 to 2,000 Palestinians for no rhyme or reason, again, just because they hate Palestinians. So now that you're fully updated on Israel's brutality and the parameters of this conflict, let's fast forward to last summer's conflict. Now most of the media only talked about the rockets and Israel defending itself, etc., etc. Look, here's the unfiltered truth. Hamas, who is the governing authority of the Gaza Strip, and Fatah, who is the governing authority of the West Bank, and keep in mind the Gaza Strip and the West Bank are both the Palestinian territories. But yes, Hamas and Fatah both signed a unifying agreement saying that we both are now one. They essentially tried to unify both the Palestinian governments to create one. That failed because Israel said no mas to that. Israel entered the West Bank and arrested hundreds of Hamas and Fatah officials under no legal grounds. Then there was a killing of 3 Israeli teens, which we know Hamas nor Fatah committed, and Israel used searching for those teens as an excuse to bomb areas of the West Bank, even though they already knew that those Israeli teens were dead. And they killed a handful of civilians inside the process. Now over in the Gaza Strip, Hamas became angered by Israel's actions, and they basically did what they could with the situation, which was launch homemade bottle rockets into the middle of the Israeli desert. Israel then used that as justification to launch a random military offensive into the Gaza Strip after -6 people were killed. Israel, disproportionately killed 2,000 people and targeted schools, hospitals, and shelters in their bombings. 80% of the people that they killed were civilians, and 25% were children. that set the Gaza Strip's only power plant in flames, and the total damage done by this assault will make the Gaza Strip's infrastructure, as in roads, bridges, highways, and even houses and apartments, mostly collapse by 2024, just 10 years from now. And the Gaza water services are now providing 50% less water than usual. I mean, the damage done by this was cataclysmic. And again, they're walled into this hellhole of poverty and despair because the borders are closed off. Now, how has Israel been able to brutalize and degrade the Palestinians for so long and be so unchallenged? Well, they've had quite a lot of help. But from who else? Well, the puppet master itself, the United States of America. Since 1948, we have given Israel a grand total of $234 billion in aid, and in recent years, nearly all has become military aid in terms of weapons and aircraft and technology for Israel's advanced defense system. And the support does not nearly stop there. We have held the UN hostage in terms of dealing with this conflict and vetoed any sort of peace deal that doesn't absolutely favor Israel. However, every other country besides the United States and Israel are in favor of granting the Palestinians their own state and giving them back some of their land and letting their economy grow and prosper. These are things that take about half a brain to figure out. However, the US and Israel have blocked any sort of peace in this conflict. So, now, what is the current situation now with this peace deal I was talking about and the climate surrounding it? Well, this peace resolution was created by the Palestinians and submitted by Jordan, and it has some of the following provisions according to BBC News. The document, presented by Jordan, calls for a deal within 1 year, an Israeli withdrawal from the occupied territories by the end of 2017. Jordan has indicated it would not seek a quick vote, allowing further talks and a possible bid to secure U.S. support, which is not going to happen. The U.S. has vetoed previous resolutions it considers hostile to Israel, which is just about anything, and the text of the draft says a negotiated solution should be based on several parameters, including the boundary between Israel and the West Bank that existed before the 1967 Six-Day War, security agreements, and Jerusalem as the shared capital of the two states. It urges both parties to abstain from any unilateral and illegal actions, including settlement activities that could undermine the viability of a two-state solution. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has sought reassurances that the U.S., Israel's ally, would block any efforts to adopt the resolution. Now here's what is pissing people off University. What is wrong with any of the provisions in this resolution? Create a Palestinian state. Go back to the 1967 borders, which I'll show up here in a moment, and share the capital. Stop all the random slaughters, and they stop the rocket fire. So simple, but yet they want to turn it down. This is a symbol of the U.S.'s and Israel's obstructionism and how it is the block on the road to peace in this conflict. The Palestinians and even the supposed terrorists, Hamas, are doing their part in making peace in this conflict. However, Israel is not putting its ego to the side, and the U.S. is blindly supporting the problem in this situation. The solution, like most other things these days, is absolutely simple. Move out of the way, United States, you complete idiots. We continually supply Israel with weapons and protect Israel from any criticism or a deal that may not go entirely in their favor. The vast majority of the international community wants peace. It wants to end this senseless brutality, but not the United States. Guys, it makes me sick to my stomach, because we are purposefully blocking ending the despair and the poverty of millions of Palestinians. Supporting the problem in this situation is not the answer. However, supporting peace is. Thank you all for listening to the Progressive Talk Daily today. Remember, hit the subscribe button and spam the like button, and visit the comment section below. We're taking PTB far. Have a fantastic day, guys. Love you.